Okay now?
It's okay.
सारा नगर में दारू भी बिकती है। सारा नगर के लोग दारू निकालते हैं, बेचते हैं। सारा नगर के लोग चोरी करते हैं। लेकिन ये सब करने के पीछे उनकी अपनी अपनी मजबूरियां हैं, और ये अभी से नहीं, बहुत टाइम पहले से चालू है।
किसको हफ्ता देता है तू? किसको हफ्ता देता है? सब किसी को नहीं। हफ्ता क्यों नहीं पहुंचाया? पुलिस के सामने साहब इतने साल लगा।
98 પહેલા ખરેખર આપણા લોકોને બોર્ન ક્રિમિનલ જ માનતા હતા. છારા એટલે ખરાબ, છારા એટલે ચોરી, છારા એટલે દારૂ. છારા નગરમાં થિયેટર આવવાને કારણે લોકો અમને અલગ નજરેથી જોવા લાગ્યા.
बुधन थिएटर के बारे में आपको कैसे लगता है?
बुधन थिएटर ग्रुप जो कर रहा है, फॉर यू एंड मी, यू विल ऑल्सो admit. I have worked, I have lived with the denotified tribes for many years. किधर भी मैं ऐसी जागृति नहीं देखा.
અરે 4-5 દિવસ માટે ભૂખ્યા રહો ત્યારે તમને ખબર પડે કે આ પેટની યાદ છે ને માણસથી શું શું કરાવી દે. બધું જ કરાવી દે બોસ, બધું જ. અમારે હાથ લાંબા કરવાના હતા આયા. આ ભૂખ અને ભીખ અમે નથી ઊભી કરી. આ તો અવતાર હાટે મળી છે અમને. અવતાર હાટે.
This time makes us act right. And he, Daksha and all, they listen to the all of the time. इन लोग के पास एजुकेशन है, एक्सपोजर ज़्यादा है. This city dwelling DNTs they are. So what they can do, others cannot. You are the person who took me there. You are the person who started that library. You are the person who is still supporting the Buddhan Theatre.
ये हमारी एक छारा नगर लाइब्रेरी है, जिनमें बहुत सारी किताबें हैं। इंग्लिश की है, हिंदी की है, गुजराती की है, और सभी की सभी लिटरेचर और नाटक ड्रामा उन पर बहुत सारी किताबें हैं। और बहुत सारी एक्टिविटीज़ भी हम लोग करते हैं और बच्चों को थिएटर सिखाते हैं।
उनके शब्द लहू के होते हैं, लहू लोहे का होता है। जो मौत के किनारे जीते हैं, उनकी मौत से जिंदगी का सफर शुरू होता है। जिनका खून और पसीना मिट्टी में गिर जाता है, वे मिट्टी में तब तक उगा रहते हैं।
इज्जत मिलना, डिग्निटी मिलना, ये जो पूरा काम है, ये पूरा काम नाटक से हुआ है। क्योंकि जो बुधन के साथ हुआ था वो हमारे बाप दादा बुजुर्ग, हमारे आसपास हमारे माहौल में वो रोज बनता था। तो उस एट्रोसिटी को समझना हमारे लिए बहुत बड़ी प्रॉब्लम नहीं थी, उसको एक्ट करना हमारे लिए बहुत बड़ी प्रॉब्लम नहीं थी। नाटक करने के बाद बहुत सारे लोगों ने हमें एक्सेप्ट करना शुरू किया। बहुत सारे लोग जो थे वो जिनकी दृष्टि हमें हमेशा क्रिमिनल के तौर पर देखने जैसी थी, उनकी दृष्टि बदलती गई, हमें देखने का नजरिया बदलता गया। क्योंकि ये सिर्फ नाटक नहीं था, ये जिंदगी थी जिसको हम हमारी जिंदगी को परफॉर्म करते थे। इमेजिनेटिव एक्ट नहीं था, वो रियलिस्टिक एक्ट था, वो रियल लाइफ एक्ट था।
Dealing with life with you.
सोने की थाली है, ये गंदी बस्ती की लाश वोटों की नली से चूसो मजदूर किया हटो चलो रास्ता दो दौड़ रहा है राजनीतिक रक्त रे राम राम सत्य रे हाय हाय राम राम सत्य रे हाय हाय।
लेकिन जब वो नाटक देखते थे तो उन्हें इस सत्य के बारे में पता होता था कि इस देश के 6 करोड़ लोग आज भी जन्म से गुनहगार माने जाते हैं और नाटक उनकी आवाज बने। नाटक ने उनकी आवाज देश और दुनिया तक पहुंचे। आज 15 साल हो गए हैं बुधन थिएटर को और 15 साल में 43 प्लेज हम लोगों ने किए हैं देश की घुमंत और विमुख जनजातियों के अलग अलग मुद्दों पर और लाखों की तादाद में लोगों तक हम लोग पहुंचे और इससे एक बहुत बड़ी सामाजिक क्रांति आई और ये क्रांति है सामाजिक स्वीकार की, ये क्रांति है संवैधानिक अधिकारों की।
हिंदुस्तान का हर एक घुमंतु और विमुक्त जनजाति का आदमी सिर्फ यही सोच रहा है, उसके दिमाग में सिर्फ यही सोच चल रही है कि क्या वो सेकंड क्लास सिटीजन है, क्या वो सेकंड क्लास सिटीजन है, क्या हम सेकंड क्लास सिटीजन है, क्या हम सेकंड क्लास सिटीजन है। हमें चाहिए आत्मसम्मान, हमें चाहिए आत्मसम्मान, हमें चाहिए आत्मसम्मान।
What is West? This is continuous work. What they have chosen, Dakshi and Budhan Theatre Walas, they have chosen deliberately a path of continuous work. ये करने का ही है।
So that's it. I think we can right now go into the session. Dakshin, are you there?
Yeah, yes.
Okay. So today, on the 27th talk in this Logothami Theatre series, talk series, which we started after the pandemic, we have a totally distinct and different theatre person with us, Dakshin Chara. Dakshin, I know I met him sometime in 2007 or 6 for the first time at Ninasam, Hagodu. There was a seminar known as, not the drama seminar, of the 50th year of the drama seminar that happened in the Delhi, which actually revolutionized the concepts about Indian theatre. And we were roommates kind of thing. And we met for the first time there. And I still remember that, they introduced him to me like this. He said he's from Budhan Theatre, from Ahmedabad, Gujarat. And then he asked me, do you know what is my profession? Means my to be profession, which I should have done. I said, I don't know. He said, robbery. I'm born in that tribe of thieves. So if I decide, I can take whatever you have without you knowing about it. So that's the way he introduced himself to me. And then he told me about his tribe, the whole denotified tribes, different denotified tribes that living in different parts of the country. I was not knowing about it actually before, but she told me about it. And then we had a lot of discussions and we have been in continuous contact. And I found himself as a very vibrant, very radical, very original a theatre person. It's not just theatre, it's life. You have seen that small documentary about Bhutan theater and the tribe and the way of theater they are doing. It's not very clear. There are problems of sharing and all those things are there, but still it very crudely gives about an idea about the life and situation and surroundings where the Darshan is doing his theater and why he does theater and what he does, etc. Very briefly, it's an introduction about himself. So he'll be speaking about the socio-political theater in India. And I have to tell that, Darshan Kumar Bajrange, that's his name. Chara is his community name. So he would love to be called as Darshan Chara than Bajrange. He belongs to the Chara community, one of the denotified tribe, which he himself will tell you more precisely and exactly what is it. And he was grown up there, and he started doing theater. They started a theater company known as Bhutan Theater. I think he'll speak about the person Bhutan also, on which the name of his theater company has been. And then he was working in theater and also in films. He's one of the best documentary filmmakers of India, belonging to that Anand Patworthan kind of people. He has done around more than 130 or 40 films, I think. And he has done some fiction films also. Zamir is one very interesting film which he made. It has been shown internationally and also commercially released in Mumbai in Hindi, I think. I've seen that film. So he has done a lot of film, theater, etc., and also a very active social activist. His life, theater, film, and social activities cannot be differentiated. It's life, it's theater, it's struggle to go ahead along with the community. And his work is immense. He has been awarded with a lot of recognitions like Ford Foundation International Fellowship, so that he could graduate his studies in theater and global development from Leeds, UK. So he has his formal education theater from UK, but it's theater for global development, etc. And he has written a book known as Bhutan Bolta Hai. It's a very important book about Bhutan and the community, Bhutan Bolta Hai. And that also has won the Mahatma Gandhi Creative Writing Award for Human Rights. Many of his films have been going around in international film festivals in India, outside India, and won awards and accolades. And I've been very happy that the people in Kerala also had the chance to see one of his plays, because in Thiruvaranga, the street play festival in Cochin that we organize, the PJ Antony Foundation, we invited once Bhutan Theatre to come and perform, and the people are struck actually by the amount of direct confrontation which the theatre is ready to take, especially from a state from Gujarat and Ahmedabad. How dare they do the theatre, and how forcefully they attack the establishment, how radical they are and how daring they are. And but I think that was the mildest play which he has been doing in Gujarat. It's much more stronger when I see other footage or other when he speaks about this thing. So we are very eager, as Jolie said, to hear, Upendra said, to hear and listen to what Darshan has to share with us. And he'll speak, and we'll love to have a very active discussion with the people. And as I usually say, please don't forget to give your name and place before you put a comment or question or anything, so that we want to record it, we want to transcribe it, and these talks will be coming as a book, hopefully. The work has already been started. So we want a question and answer session also to be there as part of the book, of course edited. So With this, I welcome all of you and Dakshin, my friend, to this session. And next week, we have Sauti Chakravarti coming and talking about the purpose of lighting. One of us, Arun Lal, who is a regular participant, he said that no, why not we have some sessions on technical aspects of theater also. So Saudi will be mostly speaking about lighting, set, everything. His focus is on lighting. He is one of the best lighting designers of the country, and he is a teacher of National School of Drama in Delhi. So he'll be speaking about lighting, set, including sounds, projections, multimedia, everything. I think he'll cover. Maybe he said he'll try to do it in a day, or if not, he'll extend it to for the next one more lecture, say two-part lecture. Maybe we don't know. We have to see what Sauti has in mind. So we are very open to that. So that's next week. Sauti Chakrabarti with us. He said purpose of lighting should be the title of the talk. Purpose of lighting. Today we have Dakshin. With this, I welcome Dakshin. Dakshin, you can now take charge and you can decide the way you want to do it. So we are very happy to be together. And even if you're having that COVID positive tested, but let's see.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Chandra. I'm really honored today to speak in this forum. And I mean, this subject is one of my most favorite subject to speak. And also I'm working since many years on this subject with our theater group. I'll speak about socio-political theater. I mean, a little bit history of socio-political theater in India. And then I'll discuss some of the very key events happen in a socio-political theater in India. And I'll talk about what we are doing. I mean, we are a small community, it's a small theater group of the 10-15 people, and what we are doing and what are the outputs, actually the positive outputs of the constant theater practices in our community. So this is the plan actually of today's talk. So let me briefly discuss about how the socio-political theater actually started in India. I will read a few paragraphs which I have written when I was in Leeds actually, and I written a dissertation actually, my MA dissertation. So I will just read out a few paragraphs of socio-political theater in India, and also the liberation theory, Paulo Freire's liberation theory, Boylean liberation theory. So I have I just read out, and then I'll discuss further. We know that the Calcutta was the first city which was ruled by the British, where enactment of the Permanent Settlement Act 1795 created a new class of absentee landlord, popularly known as Bhadralok, I mean the elite class of India. It is stated that under the British rule, the Indian education system was rapidly changing, and simultaneously Indian theatre was also changing. Before the British, there was theatre, but in the form of rituals. The British imported writers and producers to produce British classical plays in India. Indians, I mean educated in Western pedagogy, began to produce and write English plays. The purpose of promoting English culture was to create a class of people who would be Indian in blood and color, but English in taste, opinions, values, and intellect. This is what Macaulay said in 1945. I mean, this was a planned act by the colonial regime to invade Indian cultural and impose their language and theatre culture. Only Bhadralok, elite people, were allowed to see theatre, but not the common man, actually, during that time. I mean, I'm talking about the 19th century, 1833, 1840. Bhadralok means those people who were English-speaking Indians and were under the influence of British culture. This cultural invasion was unbearable for Calcutta-based writers. And in 1833, a very important event actually happened. A very important play was actually performed, and that is considered, I mean, as far as very well-known academician Mr. Bharucha, Professor Bharucha, it is considered as very landmark to set up the political theater in Indian history. That happened actually in 1833. That was Bengali theater was founded in house of Naveen Chandra Basu with the performance of Neel Darpana. Neel Darpana was a play which is considered one of the first political play, actually the Bengali play, written by Dinbandhu Mitra in 1833, based on socio-political realities and struggle. People found a new expression in the play. The play was highly successful and welcomed by the common man. Following these kinds of patriotic plays, in 1876, the Great National Theatre produced the play titled Gajanand O Yuvraj, I mean Gaja and the Prince, and performed it on 19th February in the same year, in 1876. It explores how the play criticized Bengali lawyer Jagananda. Jagananda was a very known lawyer actually in Calcutta, and he invited the Prince of Wales, who invited the Prince of Wales to visit his house and meet his family members in Calcutta. A steer among Bengali interaction was that Jagananda permitted the prince to see ladies in his house who welcomed him in an Indian traditional way. So that was the issue. I mean, the theater world in Bengal, in Calcutta specifically, they didn't like the Prince of Wales' visit to the lawyer Gajananda's family and the way the ladies of his family, the welcome to the Wales. So culturally, this was unbearable in the then Bengal, and the prince's visit was mercilessly criticized in the Great National Theatre production. It was obvious that the British administration of India could not tolerate satires about the Prince of Wales, and soon after performance, the then Viceroy, Lord Northbrook, issued an ordinance on February 29, 1876, to authorize Bengal government to prohibit certain dramatic performances which are scandalous, defamatory, seditious, obscene, and otherwise prejudicial to the public interest. So in India, the Dramatic Control Act was enacted in 1876 because of this play, Gajanand O Yuvraj. However, theatre was so effective that the regime had to introduce the Dramatic Control Act in India. It was the first non-violent cultural resistance against the British regime, were politically threatened by the effects of the performance arts in India. The first political theatre movement during 1940s was not inspired by the independence movement, but rather by Marxist ideology. Theatre became a nationwide movement with the foundation of the Indian People's Theatre Association, IPTA, in 1942, which was the cultural wing of Communist Party of India. The model of IPTA was folk theatre, but IPTA members faced many problems in working with rural folk forms, as they were ignorant about the condition of life in the villages, and also they did not know the language spoken in rural areas. Meanwhile, Bengal faced terrible famine, which was a result of negligence on the part of the ruling class, in which 3 million people died. Based on famine, Bijon Bhattacharya, founder of IPTA, wrote the play Nabanna. It's a very interesting story actually. Let me just, why he written Nabanna. It's a very interesting story, which was actually narrated by the Mahashweta Devi to me. Bijon Bhattacharya, I mean, we know that he was a communist and, cultural activist. And during the famine on the road of the Calcutta, many people actually died. I mean, people are walking and out of the hunger, they died actually on the roadside. So you can see the corpses and the dead bodies actually on the road of the Calcutta. Bijon Bhattacharya, daily he used to go from his home to the office, and on the way, there was one person actually on the roadside, and he was constantly, shouting that the good days will come. I mean, the Nabanna, the good harvest will come, the good harvest will come, and this famine will over, the famine will over. So this was going on actually since many days, and one day this voice stopped, and the Bijon Bhattacharya, who was like habitual to listen this voice on the roadside, suddenly that voice stopped. So one day he stopped and he asked that where this person is, and somebody said that he died. And Bijon Bhattacharya says, how? I mean, what was the problem? And he said, because he was hungry. Because he was hungry, and that is the reason that he died. And that triggered to the Bijon Bhattacharya that if a person who is hungry since many days, but still he's talking about the optimism, he's still talking about the harvest, he's still talking about the good days will come. I mean, the good days, not in the terms of Hitler or the Modi, but I mean the days will come that people will have a food. So he thought, I mean, the optimism in that hungry man, that trigger a play in the mind of Bijon Bhattacharya, and then Bijon Bhattacharya written the play Nabanna, which is called New Harvest in 1944, which became a milestone of Indian socio-political theatre. I mean, the Professor Bharucha rightly described that it was radical in form, in content, terrifyingly honest in its depiction of suffering, and daringly innovative in its use of language and stagecraft. Unfortunately, IPTA could not sustain itself long and was disbanded after independence in 1947. It also split from the communists due to political differences and turned into the small units nationwide that we know, and many theatre people are here and they know the history of the IPTA. The tradition of IPTA was carried forward by some of its key members and well-known theatre practitioners like Habib Tanveer, Sarveshwar Dayal Saxena, Tripurari Sharma, and Badal Sarkar, who later began to develop community theatres actually in their own regions. During the 1950s to 1970s, IPTA member used street theatre to raise consciousness among peoples for socio-political issues. I mean, we know that Badal Sarkar is the key person, actually, known name in India who started the street theatre. So Badal Sarkar called his theatre from third theatre to differentiate it from westernized proscenium theatre and folk theatre. But drawing from the both, and all over India, this form was considered as epitome of conscious and experimental theatre. The street theatre form was one of the easiest and the most powerful theatre form to raise the voice of common man's social and political issues. It is a theatre form which is inexpensive, flexible, portable, yet imaginative, challenging the aesthetic notion and social sense of audience. Normally, street theatre performance happen in a circle, the original and natural shape of theatre. A circle gives a feel to the audience that the performer and the performance is not different from them, as both are on the same level. India, which is a diverse country and where there are hundreds of languages and dialects and a high degree of illiteracy, street theatre become a versatile and adaptable, cheap and mobile, and has tremendous potential and has become a voice of common man. This is what we have seen from 1950s to 70s and 80s and even till 90s. During 1916 and 70s, there was a very important work which was done by the IPTA members in the rural part of Calcutta and West Bengal. So during 1960s-70s, theatre activists felt that workshops were too short of communities and had an inadequate follow. And due to that, the villagers' enthusiasm soon runs dry and conscientization remains only skin deep. A good solution for this were the social action groups. So IPTA turned into the social action group. I remember some of the members of the IPTA and some of the member of the activist theatre in Bengal, they turned their activity into the social action groups, which was founded by the young people in the villages. The SAG, place where the simplest, short, open-ended pieces performed in the villages and usually addressing topical and local areas of concerns. Theatre was made in villages with the help of peasants who performed shows on a regular basis. This group accepted theatre as a larger organizational process of development for the people, and they involved communities directly in this process for social and political change. If you want to read more actually about this, there is a very good book by the Schempickel, 1990. It is a 1994 publication, and the writer is Schempickel about the Indian theatre. So IPTA members, Habib Tanvir developed SAG theatre with the tribes of Chhattisgarh, and that is what we know, that who could not read or write, he named his community theatre Naya Theatre, I mean New Theatre. Naya Theatre began a new trend in the commercial theatre in India, which was performed by non-trained traditional peasants actors. Due to Habib Tanvir, peasant actor got space on mainstream stage as well as in rural Indian performing platform. These people followed Ferrero. These people followed Ferrero and Boyle's two dimension of action and reflection theories, in which peasants, the oppressed, come into the dialogical process with the oppressed, who traditionally thought that this oppressor was superior to him, and thus he could not find his own voice to break the vicious circle of oppression. So, through action and reflection, a dialogue was initiated that engaged community people in participation, democratic, decentralization, and collective management of theatre process, which led them towards liberation. So this is a small liberation theory which was stated by Paulo Ferrero. This way, the entire process became one of the educational and an essential element in the act of conscientization of actor and spectator. There were many issues to run SAGs in the villages, like funding, faction within villages, the quality of production, its entertainment quality, violence from landlords or political goons, the livelihood issues of low caste actors in the upper caste and landlord dominant society. Despite all these issues, SAGs were very much active till the 1980s. This grassroots movement created enormous energy among peasants to speak, perform, and to have open discussion about their social and political problems. So these are the few paragraphs which I just wanted to read out. I just want to carry on that whatever happened in the history, so that hasn't stopped. I mean, in similar way, in a small, spaces, this SAGs, I mean, social action group, you can say social action group, or you can say social political action groups, they were working actually in different part of India. There is a very interesting incident which was narrated to me by very well-known filmmaker M.S. Sathyu. We were performing our state play in Mysore, Budhan Bolta Hai, and he came actually to watch the play. After the performance, we had breakfast, and during the breakfast, he said that, do you know invisible theatre? And I said, how theatre can be invisible? It was never, I never thought actually about that. And I said, no. He said, no, invisible theatre is the form which people not aware that people are performing, but actually people are performing, among the group. And he said that well-known actor Balraj Sahni, he was the master of the invisible theater. And he narrated he shared a very interesting incident. He said that Balraj Sahni was arrested. I think it was 1942 or 44, and he was employed by very known writer K. Asif in his one of the film. But because of his, this freedom movement, he was arrested and he was sent to the jail. K. Asif written a letter actually to the British administration that please release Balraj Sahni because his film was stuck because of Balraj Sahni sent to the jail. Surprisingly, British government actually gave the permission to release Balraj Sahni, but Balraj Sahni kept one condition actually with the K. Asif. He said that I will come out from the jail, I will shoot the film, but during the lunch time, you need to release me. I'll go somewhere, and you don't need to follow me, and you don't need to ask me where I go and where I'll go. And K. Asif said, that's fine. If you are shooting my film, and if you want to use your lunch time, for your own, I'm fine, but don't escape, please. Otherwise, police will arrest me. So he came out of the jail, and the shooting started. During the lunch break, he skipped the lunch break, and he used to go in a Bombay at somewhere outside the cotton mills, and where the many of his friends, they actually come together, and they used to do the invisible theater. I mean, what is the invisible theater? It's a very strong political theater form where couple of people, they come actually together with the pre-scripted actually in their mind. It's a form which is totally improvised form. It's not that you memorize the dialogue and you just speak on the stage. It's not that kind of actually theater form. This is the theater form where people have a subject in their mind. So a couple of people come, actually might be, for example, outside the cotton mill, at the tea shop, they come together and they speak about, the issues of the labor. And slowly, people engage with the actors. I mean, people who are the real laborers, they don't know that these people are actors. So they become a labor, actor become a labor, and they start the discussion. So the real labor came into the discussion, and slowly the real actor, they go away from the space, and the discussion actually started. So this kind of the invisible theater was performed by the Balraj Sahni, which was very important political theater form during that time, and he used for the labor rights, even for the freedom movement. And very few people are actually aware about this contribution of the Balraj Sahni actually in the field of theater. Now, coming to the street theater form, which is, I consider, one of the most powerful socio-political theater form. Many people say it's a poor theater. I mean, it's a theater of the poor. Grotowski said towards the poor theater in his book. And somebody asked actually to the Grotowski, that what is the minimum need for the theater? What is the minimum need? So somebody asked actually to Grotowski that, can theater possible without stage? And Grotowski said yes. Then somebody asked that, can theater possible without costume? And said yes. Can theater possible without lights? They said yes. Can theater possible even without story? He said yes, definitely. Then somebody asked, can theater possible without actor? And he said no. Without actor, theater is not possible. So I mean, the minimum requirement is an actor. And what is actor? So actor is body, actor is voice. So if you have you don't have different kind of bags of tricks actually to show your performance. If you have your body and you have your voice, even you don't have your voice, if your body, you can perform. So this simple idea was given by the Grotowski, and if you see India's street theater, you can see that, knowingly or unknowingly, might be Bada Sarkar was following Grotowskian idea of, theater, that the minimum requirement is physical theater actually started, and people started the street theater during the 1950s and 60s and 70s. Now, as Chandra was in the beginning, he was sharing with me that there are 2 states in India. I mean, might be there are many other states I'm not aware about them, but I know that there are 2 states which has the censorship. I mean, the laws which censor the theater productions. Gujarat and Maharashtra. So if you want to perform the play on the street or in the auditorium or anywhere where the public is coming to watch the play, we need to censor the script in the government, and from the government, we need to submit the censored script to the police commissioner, and then the police commissioner actually will give the permission, and then only we can perform. So this is still happening, as I discussed with you, that in the history in 1876, this Dramatic Control Act, enacted, and that act is still going on in Gujarat and in Maharashtra. Might be in many other states, but definitely in Gujarat and Maharashtra, this act is still there. Because of this act, you can see that in these 2 states, you won't find a lot of political theater, a lot of social political theater. I mean, the theater which is showing the hardcore realities, what is happening actually in the states. Might be in Maharashtra, there are people, but the kind of loud political theater should be happen actually on the street. You can see that, that is not happening actually in the recent time, and even in recent many years. There is another act which is called a Beggary Act. I don't know how many of you are aware about this Beggary Act. In India, it's a very idiotic act which is still, applicable, and which is still exists actually in all these states. The definition of the beggary in India is that if a person or group receiving alms, receiving money or not, if they are performing, singing, dancing on the street, they are considered as a beggars. So it means if we are, excuse me, congratulations. So if it means, it means if person is singing, the folk artist, if they are walking on the street, if they are singing, dancing, or or performing on the street, they are considered as a beggars. Because of these 2 acts, police have power to arrest people who are performing on the street. This stop, people to perform the hardcore socio-political realities on the street. So that is one of the legal hurdle actually with the people in these 2 states. I'll come in the very more contemporary, because I discuss a little bit history of the socio-political theater and some of the key event happened in the history which I know and I shared with you. But if we talk about the contemporary, times, there are a lot of things actually happening at the moment in the country. For example, CA NRC. Now, this CA NRC, which is going to affect like everybody in the country, and which is absolutely, nonsense kind of act, which is bringing out, by the government. If you see the cultural expression of, this kind of act, you will find that might be at a small spaces, very few people have actually made the plays and they perform on the CNRC, or might be, I mean, I'm not aware that, you know, there is any of the play actually on the CNRC being performed in the country in the, you know, in a large way on the streets. And the reason, because of this kind of act, are stopping and giving the power actually to the police to arrest people from the street who are performing socio-political realities. That is the one thing. Recently, the most horrible, I mean, rapes are horrible, but the recent rape case which shaken up entire country, that was a Hathras rape case in UP. You see that girl was raped, her spine was broken, her tongue was, you know, cut down. After that, she was burned like a garbage by the police. If we see that such kind of things are happening, but I don't see any sort of cultural expression in the field of theater at the moment in India, might be, I mean, not even digitally, not even in practically. I have not seen any sort of, you know, cultural expression of such kind of brutal rape case, murders, and the state atrocities actually happening on the people. So there is so much happening around us, but unfortunately, according to me, in my opinion, there is not much cultural expression actually coming out at the moment in the country. I don't know what are the issues, but might be the legal issues, but there might be many more issues. We, in the recent time, we did the play called Accidental Death of Anarchist. Now, Accidental Death of Anarchist is a Dario Fo's play, which was translated by Amitabh Srivastava, and we adapted the play actually in the context of Gujarat. So Chandra was saying that I should talk a little bit about the Gujarat theatre. Accidental Death of Anarchist we adapted in the context that we have a POTA families. You might know that we have an act called POTA, Prevention of Anti-Terrorism Activities, POTA. And many Muslim people, the youth specifically, they got arrested actually in the POTA. I don't know, I mean, many people spend years on years actually in the jail. Unfortunately, the families of those young men, their families identify as a POTA family. I mean, for example, the family's son name is a Mansuri, but they don't name them as a Mansuri or family. They itself, they recognize themselves as a POTA family. So it's like a stigma. For example, my community is, you know, branded as a criminal tribe. So this is also a kind of legal stigma that the person is arrested in the POTA family. They are branded as a POTA, people are coming from the POTA family. So to counter with this stigma, we performed Accidental Death of Anarchist. We wanted to perform in auditorium. We wanted to perform on the street. We wanted to perform in a proscenium theater in experimental way for the people. I applied at least 3 times for the permission. I mean, I sent the script for the censor in the state, and state said that you cannot use few words. There is a dialogue in the play which is called the dialogue in Hindi. It says that सोशलिज्म शांतिपूर्ण तरीके से आ जाएगा, ये सोचना भी बेवकूफी है. I mean, this was the dialogue, and the state government say that you cannot use this dialogue. I mean, socialism शांतिपूर्ण तरीके से आ जाएगा, ये सोचना भी बेवकूफी है. You can perform the play, but you cannot use this dialogue. Now, this dialogue is the heart of the play. I was not allowed, and we could not perform in auditorium this play. We perform in a small audiences, in a small corner at the different places in the private shows, and we perform 35 to 40 shows. I mean, we also perform in the Serendipity Arts Festival in Goa also. So such kind of censorship issues were there. Now coming to the what we are doing and how we are using socio-political theatre. In 1998, a very, I mean, such an unfortunate and a huge tragedy, tragic event happened in West Bengal, in the Purulia district. There was a person called Budhan. Budhan was a tribal, belonged to the tribe called Sabar, Sabar, Sabar. Sabar, unfortunately, is treated as a criminal tribe in West Bengal. He was arrested by the police and brutally beaten up in the police lockup, in the jail, in the judicial custody, and he was died there. This incident was appeared in a small magazine, and this magazine reached from the west, from the eastern part of India to the western part of India, where I live, in the place called Charanagar in Ahmedabad, and we started the library. In that library, this magazine actually came, and I read the interim judgment of Justice Romapal of Kolkata High Court. Interim judgment says that the Budhan Sabar was brutally killed, brutally beaten up by the police, based on the forensic evidences. Based on that interim judgment, I made the play called Budhan. I was told by Dr. Ganesh Devi, who is a very known linguist, that why don't you write the play actually and perform on this incident. So I written the play Budhan, and Budhan was performed on 31st August 1998. Now this day is extremely important in the life of 6 crore people. 31st August. 31st August is considered as a denotification day for the particular group of people actually in India. Now, why it is denotification? What is this denotification? During the British time, there was British constructed an act called Criminal Tribes Act in 1871. And under this act, they notified more than 200 tribes who were nomadic in culture, I mean in nature, and they were most of the tribes were performers, and they were not under the tax net of the British. British wanted to control these tribes, and because of that, they enacted the Criminal Tribes Act, and they notified these tribes and branded them as a born criminals. From 1871 to 1947, the British constructed 52 settlements, like a Nazi concentration camp kind of settlements in India. The biggest settlement, settlement was like the large, big fenced area where notified tribes were kept under the close scrutiny of the police. They could not go outside. If they want to go outside to buy something, they had to take a permission from the superintendent of the settlement. So such kind of settlements were existing in the pre-independence time. Even after independence, more than 200 tribes were branded as a criminal tribes. They were put into the different settlements. Unfortunately, none of the political leader of the freedom fighters, which we consider like might be Gandhi or Ambedkar or Patel or Nehru, none of the political leaders, they took interest actually to make free these people from the settlements or to repeal the Criminal Tribes Act even after the independence. When India got independence, I heard that many people, they got free from the jail who were arrested in the different crimes, and to celebrate the independence, they also got free. Only class which was not got freedom on 15th August 1947 was this criminal act, so-called criminal tribes. They were still kept into the settlements. The independent government set up a committee to recommend whether these people should be free or not, or this act should be repealed or not. The committee took 5 years and 16 days. I mean, on 31st August 1952, the committee produced the report in the parliament, and they said that Criminal Tribes Act is a blot on the Constitution of India, and this act should be repealed, but the act should be replaced by the Habitual Offender Act. So the one act was repealed and another act was replaced, the Habitual Offender Act. Habitual Offender Act is still actually existing in all the state. I'm sure it is also in the Kerala. In all the state, the Habitual Offender Act is still. It's a replica of the Criminal Tribes Act. And so the act which was enacted in 1871, that was repealed in 1952. So people who were notified, they were de-notified on 31st August 1952. So that is the reason that 6 crore people today, the population of de-notified tribes are 6 crore people. I mean, almost 6% population of India, they are still branded as a criminal tribes, as born criminals. I'm giving you example, the recent example. In 2018, on the 26th July 2018, at the midnight, around 2 o'clock, I mean 1:30 or 2 o'clock in the morning, around 500 policemen actually came where I live, and they just rushed into the houses in my community people. They brutally beaten up to the people for at least 4 or 5 hours, including children, including women. People were sleeping and they didn't know what is actually happening. And by the time we materialize that why police are actually entering into our houses, they are breaking, windows and doors, and they are beating to the people. By the time we materialize what is happening, they beaten up more than 200 to 300 people actually in the community. Including me and our theatre group members. We found that there was a small incident happened at the police chowki where I live, that is called Kuberagar Police Chowki. And there was a one small quarrel, tension happened actually between the police sub-inspector and the Chhara young man. So they had a fight with each other. Now the ego of the police sub-inspector hurt, and he gave the message to the police department that the Chhara people, who are the criminals by birth, they are coming actually to the police chowki to burn down the police chowki. That kind of message he given to the police department, and police department sent the police force actually to Charnagar, and they brutally beaten up for the 3-4 hours actually to the entire community. Now, why this happened? This is 2018. It was 1871. In 1871, the Criminal Tribes was enacted. 1947, the India got independence. 1952, the act was repealed, but the stigma of the criminal tribes still on. And because of that, people were actually brutally beaten up. 29 people who were absolutely innocent, they were booked under the Robbery Act. And the case is still going on in the court. The committee want to file the case against the police, but it is 2.5 years. We are still not succeeded to get to file the case against the police. So this denotification, denotified tribes, this is the condition of the socio-political rights of the denotified tribes in India. So I was saying that on 31st August 1998, we celebrated this act as our second independent day in India by performing the play called Budhan. So Budhan was the first play which I written and performed, and after that, it is now 22 years since then we are performing this play. Along with this play, we made 52 more plays on a different socio-political realities of nomadic and denotified tribes in India. And eventually, this theatre movement became a very important cultural movement of the denotified tribes movement, which is a recent movement in Indian history. We know the Dalit movement, we know the tribal movement, Chipko movement, but the DNT movement is a recent movement, and the theatre is playing a very key role in this entire movement. To understand the impact of the theatre actually in this movement is that we were demanding the commission to understand the problems of the nomadic and denotified tribes in India. So Dr. Devi and Mahashita Devi, they made Dr. Manmohan Singh, I think it was in 2007 or 8 might be, on 14th January 2007. Yeah, 2007. And Dr. Devi was actually speaking about the Budhan theatre to the Dr. Manmohan Singh. And Dr. Manmohan Singh said, I am aware about this theatre group, the Budhan theatre. And Dr. Devi was surprised that how? I mean, how do you know actually about this theatre group? Fortunately, media people written a lot of things actually about Budhan theatre, even in Delhi. And that message actually to reach to the Prime Minister of the country also. So whatever is happening in Charanagar, where I live, in a very small space, in a small lane, there is no conventional kind of theatre. On the terrace, whatever we are doing, this message is reaching to the nation, to the policymaker, and to the important figure of the country. After that meeting, Dr. Manmohan Singh committed that he will give the National Commission to understand the problems of the nomadic and denotified tribes. And I think after 15 to 16 days, the commission was constituted. And the commission did a great job. They studied the problem, they submit the report. So after independence, that happened first time, that commission was constituted and the commission prepared report. Right now, we have something in black and white that what are the problems of the nomadic and denotified tribes who are still treated as a thieves, branded as a robbers, criminals by birth. So this is what Budhan Theatre have been doing since last 22 years. We are 15 members. Along with theatre activity, we also do run a small library in the community. This library is not a conventional kind of library. This library is like a cultural space. It's a for the community youth or children. They come, they get an idea of the theatre. They get an idea. We employ actually youth who are coming into the library. If they are interested into theatre, they come into the theatre and they do theatre actually with us. So in that way, we have around 30-35 children, very active children who do a children theatre in our own language, which is called Bhantu. It is not neither Gujarati, not a Hindi or any other language. It's a tribal dialect. If I talk about, in general about the Gujarati theatre, honestly saying that I think after 2002 riots happened, I saw Soumya Joshi is a very known writer. I saw a few experiments of such kind of mass atrocities or mass murders actually into the theater expression. So I found that there was a play called Hututu Tututara. I think the idea was Johnny Lever is a comedy actor actually in the Bollywood. So the idea was given to the Soumya Joshi, the writer. So I think after 2002, this was the only play which I saw, which was a very based on the socio-political realities. After that, I think we also did the play called Mazhab Hame Sikhata, Apas Mein Bain Rakhna. I mean, we interpret the religions in a wrong way. So the play was Mazhab Hame Sikhata, Apas Mein Bain Rakhna, and we performed during the 2002 riots for the communal harmony. Honestly saying, in Gujarat, I think in 1980s and 90s, I could read that there were a lot of political plays, used to happen, and there was a lot of tension between the state and the actors in Gujarat, like Sarubhen Dhruv, Hiren Gandhi, this kind of people. They used to do a political plays, a lot of political plays, and they also faced a lot of censorship from the state. But after 2002, I mean, I could not see the lot of expression, theater expression or cultural expression in the field of theater in Gujarat, except few small numbers are happening. I know that we all are aware that Bhawai is a folk theater form, but that is still dying. But in the proscenium theater, between 2002 to 2012, very few cultural expressions were in the field of theater about the socio-political realities. But in the recent time, I saw that many youth actually in Gujarat, particularly in Ahmedabad, I'm not aware about Junagadh or Surat or the Barwa district, what is happening there. But in Ahmedabad, I could see that now youth are engaged into more socio-political realities rather than typical middle class plays or a comedy play or a cheap comedy play. I mean to say, coming from Bombay, a double meaning standard kind of play. Right now, the youth is engaged into more socio-political reality, specifically after the CA and RC movement in India. I think that affect a lot to the youth in Ahmedabad. And recently, I saw a lot of good productions, even online. And before 1 month, I saw a play by Harsh Shodhan. He's a known, very young man, but he written a very hardcore play on a hardcore socio-political realities on the women's issues in Ahmedabad and particularly in the Gujarati society. So, honestly saying, there is not much socio-political reality expression in Gujarati theater. There is, but in a very small scale. It should be in a large scale. Many people should actually come from the different corner of the society and they perform actually socio-political realities. But that's not happening. I know that there are Yalgar group in Maharashtra who are very, very active, into the activist kind of theater in Maharashtra. So Yalgar group is doing in Maharashtra in many small theater groups might be, they are doing a socio-political theater. Not very much aware about the Maharashtra, but I'm just aware about the Yalgar group, through the social media and because they are good friends of mine. But in Maharashtra and particularly in Western India, I don't found in a large scale the socio-reality, socio-political reality theater actually in these two states. So I will conclude that if you guys have any sort of question, I will be happy to respond. But I will conclude my talk with that when we were watching this clip, which watch actually in the beginning of the speech on the Budhan Theatre, Mahashweta Devi, if you watch the clip again, Mahashweta Devi says that this is the time to act. Right. That is what actually Mahashweta Devi said. This is the time to act. And particularly in India, this is the time where the most of theatre group should come out and should perform the socio-political realities in their small region or wherever they are living, or whatever the language they have, or whatever the resources, or if they don't have resources, they have their bodies and their voices, they should perform in a large scale. Because I strongly feel that when people watch socio-political theatre, they connect those realities with their own lives or their own experiences, and the change definitely, the socio-political change definitely come. I can say, based on my personal experience, that 22 years of Budhan Theatre's journey, 52 plays, performed more than 1,700 shows, across the country, I could see that there is a little bit change in people's perception. At least in Ahmedabad, the mainstream society, they don't consider charas now as criminals. System still treat us as criminals, but at least mainstream society, the civil society, they don't consider charas as criminals. They consider good actors, writers, expressionists. So I could see that because of the constant theatre practices and constant this cultural dialogical process with the society, I could see that this change is coming. So if people who are performing socio-political theatre at a large scale, in India, I'm sure the things will get change in people's perception. I don't know whether state will change or not, but people's mindset will change with the different issues, about the different issues in India. Thank you very much, Chandra, for giving me time and space, and giving sharing my thoughts actually about socio-political realities and this form and my own experiences in this forum. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dakshin, for sharing this. I think he has just very briefly introduced it here and there. There's a lot of scope for discussion, so that no more clarifications can come in, and people will be interested to know more specific kind of instances, examples, reasons, all those things. And we have actually a good number of people from Kriti Jain to the youngest of the lot, Anita, a school girl. It's a big, broad spectrum of people listening to you. So I would ask people to come in and make Dakshin speak more detail by your comments, questions, all those things. So it's the discussion time. So please feel free to come and ask questions. Already Jolie has posted something. I think Jolie can start it.
Thank you, Chara. I'm not giving you a name. Anyway, thank you, Dakshin Chara. It was so nice to hear about the activity. Even I heard about the Bodhan play, but it was first time I could hear it. Are you able to listen? I think I'm audible. Am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible, but you are not appearing on the.
Yeah, I'll just come. I also suffering with so much of cold, cough,
Okay.
I haven't checked for the COVID test. So here the situation in Telangana is so funny. So, so it's okay. Mine was like this simple. I know that this particular play and your group has performed profusely. So I was thinking about you will elaborate a little bit of audience interactions, all through your 22 years of career. Some of the anecdotes where, how your own personal audience interacted at different places and different junctures at your own career. That is one thing. Another thing is, as you rightly said, that yes, still there is like a political, socio-political theater is becoming a covert application in many part of the country. It's not coming out, but there are a lot of people have that ambition, but nothing happens. So it's a very different kind of an attitude. Anyway, especially in Telangana and Andhra, where there used to be lots and lots of socio-political theater activities. Now everything is in doldrums. So that's another thing. Another thing is very simple thing is one more thing. When while watching your documentary, I found out that you had some kind of influences from Maheshwara Devi, as well as from Satyu and from your talk, and from the other theater activists. So some of your influences, if you can elaborate a little bit time about those kinds of influences, it will be fine. Thank you so much.
Before you start answering the question, he has put 2-3 questions to you about the audience interaction. I would love to know it in little more detail. Like you have performed within your community of the Chara community. So how people interact there, and then you performed outside your community in Ahmedabad and other parts of Gujarat. That may be another kind of reactions. And also you have traveled out and performed different festivals and different parts of the country. So how each space was, the audience in each different space was trying to responded back to you, and how does it affect you? And how does it affect the next work of Bhutan Theatre to redefine the work, and how did you move forward? That's an interesting kind of thing. We can take a little time and elaborate it.
Yeah. So, should I respond, Chandra?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I think within a community, I would say that, because whenever we made the play, we prepared the play, first we perform actually in the community only. At least 10, 15 shows in the different places. It's not, as I say, it's not a conventional space. It's a किसी के घर के अंदर या किसी के बाहर, घर के बाहर आंगन में, we perform it at different places actually in the community. So people can relate actually their stories, what we are performing. And I could see that, the changes in the people's perception even about our own community. Because sometimes when you are living with the hardcore reality, the police and the societies keep telling you that you are a thief, you are a chor, you are a thief, you are a criminal. And people are doing criminal activities and brewing the illicit liquor. That's a livelihood actually of my community people. So they brew the liquor actually. Or most of people, 60-70% people, they brew liquor. So when they watch the play actually, on their own stories or the atrocities, they're easily connect actually with their personal stories, which they normally don't speak. Because in the community, there's a lot of fear. As I shared with you that in 2018, when people were brutally beaten up, it's a very educated community. I mean, there's a 7% education. There are more than 300 lawyers. But you can see that none of is writing about such kind of atrocities. Why? Because people have a lot of fear actually from the state. If they will write anything, and police department or the state will come to know that this person actually have written critically about our department, they will they have a police have a, हम कहते हैं ना हिंदी फिल्मों में हजारों हाथ होते हैं. There were different ways actually to harass the person. So there is a lot of things actually within the community to speak out, but they could not speak out, and they relate. When we speak in our theater, in our performances, they can easily relate. That is the one thing which when we perform on our community spaces, when we go outside, that's a very different experience. Because people are not aware at all actually about that this many people, 6 crore people, they're still living under the stigma, and they're living the stigma, anybody can come, and anytime the police come and they just pick up the person. I was arrested in 2003. I think I shared with you when we were roommate in the not the seminar, not the drama seminar. That when I was arrested in 2003, the police who arrested me, he said that दक्षिण भाई आपने बहुत नाटक किए हैं, वो भी हमारे पुलिस चौकी के सामने आके ही नाटक किए. You perform the plays actually in front of our police chowki, and anti-police plays. Being a chara, now you see the what is real jail. So, when I was, I am living in reality. When we go outside, they are not aware about actually what is the reality, how people are actually kind of communities. So for them, it's completely different. It's an absolutely different world, and they look at us in a very sensible way because it connect emotionally. Our plays are very emotional. You cannot confine Buddhan theatre's play into the different kind of theories, Indian theater theories. It's a very simple play. People are crying, people are speaking, people are angry in the play, and people can easily actually connect with the actors, emotion, and the spectator, they easily connect with each other. So the emotional bridge happened, and with that emotional bridge, when the people come to know about the particular community, they become more sensitized. So I hope, that is the reason I say that at least in Ahmedabad, at least the civil society, they don't consider right now the charas as criminal. Might be larger society can consider, but the mainstream society, the civil society, they don't consider charas as criminal, at least now. But in 1980s, 90s, everybody considered charas as criminals.
And how was it taken outside Gujarat? Your performance was taken outside Gujarat.
Many people invite actually us to perform to their spaces. We are not we don't have any funding support. If we want any sort of funding support, we ask to our parent organization that is called Bhasha Research and Publication Center. It is in Baroda. But normally we go outside on the invitation actually. So sometimes we are invited in the conferences, we are invited in the institution to perform in front of the students. But some incident happened. For example, there was a huge demolition actually happened in Ahmedabad. That time we didn't wait for the invitation. We just gone on the street and we performed 36 shows. But the play called Bulldozer. So the bulldozer come and they demolish the house. We performed 36 shows in I think 3 to 4 days. And we performed many shows actually in the protest of when the poor people were stopped to see the lake in Ahmedabad. So it's not, Buddhan theatre is not just speaking or performing on just the denotified tribes or nomadic tribes, but the many other issues which is happening in the city or in Gujarat. We also perform plays actually on that. So we perform Taras Lagi Che Taras. I'm thirsty. So lake is thirsty. Thirsty of the people, its own people, the poor people who were selling the small things actually around the lake. So right now they are not allowed because it's the huge wall was constructed by the Modi government around the public lake, and people are not able to see their own lake. So it is the play is about that lake is thirsty of its own people. So we perform this kind of plays also for the people's expression on the street and in front of this public lake. So people can come together, and we've also file the legal cases, not just performances, but we file the legal cases also to reduce or to not to take the fees actually to see the public lake in Ahmedabad. So it's almost of invited performances we do actually whenever we go outside. But if any issues come up, we go on the street and we perform.
Dakshin, I'm sorry.
No permission. I don't see. I never see. I will never take the permission actually from the state. I never censored any of the script from the state. So all in the legal view, you can see that all the performances we did are illegal.
And how will you manage? How will you manage without censorship?
I mean, you have to face the police operation. As I said that in 2003 I was arrested because of police and spent 60 days in the jail. I could not give my IS examination during that time. So such kind of things happen. But now police know that this group is there and they perform. So sometimes they come and sometimes we do a dialogue with the police and sometimes they leave us. Okay, chalo, jali khatam karo, jao. ऐसा करके चले जाते हैं. But in the private spaces there is no problem at all. I mean, I hardly, in last 22 years, I think we hardly perform in auditorium. Might be you can say 25-30 shows might be, but most of shows we perform in a private spaces, in a small spaces.
Yeah.
That means you need a censorship only if you are performing in an auditorium. Or
actually, you need permission wherever you are performing, wherever people are coming. Ideally.
I remember that when I was invited to Ahmedabad to perform the play Media by Euripides in a festival, I was asked to submit a script of the Malayalam translation I am going to perform. Because they said no, the organizers has to submit it to some police department and get it censored. I told them that no, this is written by Euripides and it's available in any language, even in Gujarati, they can read it and censor it. But they said that they want a Malayalam version because they want to know what exactly we are going to perform. I said they may not read it, but they have to submit. That's what I remember that. I don't know how they manage it.
Right, they have a panel. Actually, state government has a panel. They read the script and they send if they found any kind of objectionable problem. So they just draw the line, and with that they give the permission actually to the. And that script you need to submit, the censored script you need to submit to the police commissioner, and then police commissioner will give you the permission. I mean, I strongly believe that if you have a if you have a fundamental right of the freedom of expression, it has to be, unconditional. I mean, you cannot have a conditional rights. It should be an unconditional, freedom of expression. When you are imposing some of the conditions actually that okay, certain things you can perform, certain things you can perform. I mean, there is no point actually of such kind of having the fundamental rights. Yes, Ajay.
Hi Dakshin. I remember now that you're talking about it, the 3-day festival I organized of Budan Theatre, if you remember, in Pune city. And
Yes.
you had come with your entire troupe, and 3 days we performed in the morning, then we got the audience and you all shared your work, and that time we had to get the censor certificate. That's very typical. It's a very experimental space in which you all performed, very fond memories. Now and Chandra, about Media, if you remember, we again got it to Pune during the festival very, very long time back, and that time also you had to submit in Pune also a censor Malayalam copy. Anyway, so Dakshin, what I want to ask you is, and I would like you to share two things which we have been talking all along. One is that you have a whole generation of young actors. Children are also acting in Budan Theatre. It's not just young adults, but also children, very, very young children are also acting. That is one thing I would like you to share with everyone. And secondly is how you all as a theatre group have reacted to COVID. During COVID time, you did something very, very phenomenal, which has really stayed on my mind. So I would like you to share both those experiences with this platform also, about the children which are working in your theatre, 3 generations, I think, seniors, your generation and the younger people, and what your theatre did during the COVID times.
Very interesting question, Ajay. Thank you very much for asking this, because sometime when I was speaking, because I'm not I'm a good lecturer, I'm not a very good speaker. So sometimes I think, some things forgot. But it's an interesting question. Thank you very much for that. To counter with this COVID-19, situation, of course, the physical performances are, banned, and we are not able to do that. But we found, with the support of our organization, Bhasha, we are right now actually releasing the podcast, video podcast. So in our own language, because between first lockdown to third lockdown, we lost 30 people in my community, 30, more than 30 people actually, because of Corona. And there was a huge, fear in the community. And it was extremely important to, that people should receive a right information, because there was a lot of information coming specifically in English, not in Gujarati, but English, many information is coming and people were not processed what is the right and what is the wrong information, what should follow. So we decided that we should use our theater art, monologue, poetry, documentary film art, this arts, and collecting this art, we are making the video podcast, and we are releasing this video podcast every 15 days onto the community's social media. I mean, we are, everybody is now on WhatsApp. So every community has their own WhatsApp groups. So we release it on the WhatsApp group, and I'm very happy to share that since we started, I think we started in July. So July, September, October, November, we released 8 episodes, and I could see that before 10 to 15 days, there was not a single case actually, COVID case, because it created a huge awareness. We use this online technology. We use all these Zoom meetings, took interviews of the doctors. Doctors give a right, information to the people. And this entire information, all the podcasts are into our Bhantu language. It's not in Gujarati. So people can easily understand the language in the community. So that is what actually right now we are using our arts, talent, different kind of arts, making a video podcast and reaching out to the communities.
Manvita Baradi is there. She's from Ahmedabad, and she would love to comment and ask something or more clarifications.
Hello, Manvita.
Manvita, please come in.
Hello, Manvita. Manvita's father, Chandra,
Yes.
was a great theatre practitioner. I mean, legendary man in Gujarat. And Manvita's father and I say Hiren Gandhi, Saruben Dhruv, they fought a case actually against the censorship in Gujarat High Court. Very long. I mean, I'm sure it is still going on. The judgments, it's not decided yet, but they fought a legal case actually against the censorship in Gujarat.
Manvita, are you there?
So, Dakshin, I'm really, I can use the word that, enhanced about various other practices across, and then your intensity, and then your consistent effort as working as a, theater actor and director and then teacher as well. So my reflection, because hence you have worked with Ganesh Devi sir, regarding the expressions and then the language and then the community, if any specific, material which can be shared across, if you have done, it would have been a little more, widespread of, understanding towards these community. Because I was, when Chandradasan, said about you, I was just searching for denotified tribes across India. And then those people, they have come across various, developments, but still they are in the denotified tribes. So in that sense, Ganesh Devi sir's collaboration, and then in connection, if you have done anything, can you please do it, number one. And number two, why don't you have a program connected with the government schools? Because we have to actually give clarity to the growing people, that is the children, because they actually adulterate about various other perspectives of the other communities in the society. So that should not happen for Chara community, no. So these two things were the reflection which I had when I listened to you. I'm really happy to listen. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Upendra. I'm sure you know that Dr. Devi is the founder of Budhan Theatre,
Yes.
and most of ideas came actually from Dr. Devi only. Like for example, we performed La Balkan, the balcony, which was John Janet's play. So we adapted in the context of Gujarat, and in the balcony, many oppressed people come and they become oppressed. So Modi also enter actually into that, in that balcony. And Modi, I mean, I'm just sharing with you the very interesting idea actually. You remind me a very interesting play actually. So Modi enter, who's an oppressor, into the balcony and he become oppressed. So he's crying that, his daughter get raped, 2002 happened, get raped and blah, blah. He's crying, I mean, like nothing. And he's become so sensible. He's a simple man. He's a very good, very good politician, very good leader. But his daughter is actually raped and he's crying on his body. And suddenly somebody actually come and he said, "Hey man, you are not married. So how can your daughter is actually get raped?" So suddenly his illusion broke. So certain kind of things also, these ideas actually came from Dr. Devi to adapt this kind of play and bring the socio-political issues into, our play. So Dr. Devi's work on the language, I mean, my entire upbringing happened actually with him. And it's extremely important because what he said that if you lose your own language, you lose your worldview. I mean, honestly saying, my English is not good. When Chandra told me to speak, I told him what language I should speak. And he said, preferably English will be okay. And English is not my language. Hindi is not my language. Even Gujarati is not my language. I could not express myself actually better in this language. I could express in my own language. And we are losing this important, language culture actually. We have more than 720 languages existing right now actually in India. And we are losing every language actually every year because of the migration of the people. So his work on the language is extremely important. And this is the reason that children theatre, which Ajay was saying, which we do, children theatre is specifically children theatre in Budhan Theatre, we do in our own language, Bantu language. So people should not forget, their own language.
And the question which means the comment which Manvita has typed, I will read it, Dakshin. She wrote that she's happy to hear her friend and colleague Dakshin talk about street theatre in Ahmedabad. The movement in Ahmedabad has been cyclical, ups and downs due to political upheavals. Though the tradition is more than 70 years old, the dramatic performance act affects all of us. He too, with my group Theatre Media Center or Garage Studio, theatre has been opposing this. Garage Studio Theatre have been opposing this. He can elaborate on that too. So how the street theatre is going ups and downs, and how the Garage Theatre group and the theatre community in general opposing the censorship and fighting it in Gujarat.
Yeah, as I said that Manvita Baradi's father, Mr. Baradi, he founded a very important theatre and media institution. I spoke also there, and when he was young, I mean, he written so many extremely important plays, which was largely performed during, I think, 80s and 90s. And like, for example, my father's generation. So they performed in between 1980s and between 90s. And they had a lot of problem because of this dramatic performing act. They had a lot of problem. And unfortunately, after that, I mean, they filed the case. Unfortunately, the advocate is, you know, a very known humanist advocate, Girish Bhai Patel. He also died before 2 years. So right now, the case is still hanging actually in Gujarat High Court. But they fought a long actually, and they had a. I mean, the way during 1980s and 90s, the kind of socio-political plays used to happen. Right now, it is not happening. That is, I'm very damn sure actually about that. So our father's generation, I mean, our previous generation, was more conscious actually to perform socio-political realities rather than this generation actually at the moment. And the reason is because of this act and the fear by the state.
So, anything else to ask? I see other people remaining silent. Mohan and Pulikodan is there, is working with tribes, I think. So these people can come up and ask, comment. I see Govindraju there, Ahalya Bilal is there, Appu is there, Arun Lal. So please come up and share.
Do you have any larger group kind of a collaboration of all the denotified tribes across India? Because, for example, Birsa Munda can also be, group can also be called, because they also started the same way of by poetry and other things. So if we have a collaboration of all the denotified tribes coming together and having a sort of work in a spread or with as one force, that initiative have you made, or do you have an idea of doing that?
It is still there. I mean, there are a couple of groups who are, I mean, for example, DNT Adhikar Manch, which was founded by Mahashweta Devi. So it is a group of 10 to 12 states community leaders, which is right now actually dealing with the state for the policy change for the denotified and nominating tribes. So I am given a responsibility to lead this group since many years, and around 300 to 305, 300 to 400 very active people, community people actually from these 12 states, including Kerala, Kuruba, community people are also with this group. So if anything happen, or if anything policy change happen, or anything protest we have to do, we all people come together and we do whatever we want to express actually to the government. So simultaneously, not just theatre practices actually Budhan Theatre is doing. Budhan Theatre also created this kind of movement also along with the this cultural movement, because see, we are a few people. We can, at the time, you can actually sensitize 200, 300 people might be. But we strongly believe that until and unless you won't have a political leadership and your people are not into the system, the justice will not serve you. So, we are training to the community youth through the theatre for the political leadership. So, in a couple of states, like in UP, we are doing right now. I mean, once this COVID-19 will over, in a big scale, we are doing in UP also. In Maharashtra, at the small scale, we have done. So through theatre, we are developing the community leaders who can actually go join the political parties, whatever, regardless of whatever political party they want to give. But they must be clear actually about what exactly they want to do and what their community and what are the exactly issues. So through theatre, through cultural practice, this is what actually we are doing in this DNT Adhikar Manch group.
Dakshin, you mentioned about that form Bhavai. I feel that that's also performed by a tribe traditionally. So when you're going to devise it, I don't know how you relate yourself with Bhavai and your protections, and what's the state of affairs? Are you using anything like that? Are you But
Bhavai is a street theatre form. We know that, and Bhavai is performed by the one of the nomadic tribe, which is called Nayak. Nayak, Bhojak, Targala. These are the names, but this is the nomadic tribe. They are not branded, might be as a criminal tribe, but they are a nomadic tribe. But they are also considered as a low caste, comparatively in a social cupboard in Gujarat. Bhavai is at the moment, it's a very dying art. I mean, I know that there are only 2 or 3 groups existing in Gujarat who are right now actually doing theatre on the invitation. But more or less, it is almost, it is a dying stage. They have a very different kind of, I mean, people use it for their own personal reason also, because the Bhavai people, they keep a very important cultural, thing with them. That is called Vahi in Gujarat. It's called Vahi Vancha. Vahi Vancha means genealogy. So there is a another group called, they also keep traditionally genealogy of the particular village, particular family, the host family. So these people, Bhavai people, also keep all the record of this kind of genealogy. So for example, one host, they invited the Bhavai performance in village. So they take all the notes of that family members, whatever he remember, the forefathers' names, where from they. So this everything they written actually in the book. That is called Vahi Vancha. It's a genealogy book. And in Gujarat, we have around, I think, 400, 500 years history of this Bhavai people and, this genealogy. Because of Bhavai, this is still actually, sustaining, existing in Gujarat. I made a film actually, that is why I know. I made a film actually on this Bhavai's Vahi Vancha. But Bhavai is not no more, I mean, it's only Gujarat government is doing any sort of, festivals. Then only they invite actually these people to perform. But with the advancement of the, technology, I think their performances are now irrelevant, becoming irrelevant at the moment.
About your own community, like Chara community, now you're settled in Ahmedabad, the Chara Nagar. So before that, maybe many years before, are you also nomadic or traveling or settled like that? And I would also like to know, when you have started doing this kind of street theater, socially oriented theater, little modern kind of theater in the 80s. So what about the performance tradition of this community? You have your own forms of singing, music instruments, song, dancers, or any other kind of performance.
Very question, Chandra. My community, they are known as Chhara in Gujarat, but in Maharashtra they are known as Kanjar and Kanjar Bhat. In Rajasthan they are known as Kanjar and Kanjar Bhat. In Delhi they are called Sasis. Now Kanjar means, if you ask any person in Rajasthan that you want to go to the Kanjar Mohalla, they will slap you, because Kanjar is considered as an abuse word. Kanjar is the name of the community who do profession, traditionally they are prostitutes. So that is what actually right now the Kanjar's term is at the moment. But in a real way, the Kanjar means the people who are performers, street performers. So for example, my grandmother was street performer. So she used to dance on the street with the sword, and she was very good acrobat. And she used to do acrobats actually on the street and singing the Bollywood songs or in our own language songs in our tribal dialect. So my community people, they were traditionally street performers. But when they were arrested under the 1871 Act, Criminal Tribes Act, this all cultural talent was vanished, gone. And when they got released in 1952, by that time, everything, these all important cultural aspects were actually forgotten. So once they got free from the settlement, there was no policy, rehabilitation policy. There was a rehabilitation policy for the Pakistan people who were coming from the Pakistan, but there was no rehabilitation policy for denotified tribes who were actually free from the settlements. That is why they started, petty thievings, stealing, and they become a thief. So this cultural talent of singing, dancing, art, they brought into the thieving. How? Because I think I shared with you once upon a time that my father was a great thief, and my father sometime actually used to share, how they used to go for thieving. So that was a total drama. I mean, we say Bhawai, a total theater. So the way our people, the way my father and my father's generation, the way they used to do a thieving, that was a total drama. Now, how that was a total drama? When my uncle died, after death, normally whatever the clothes they used to wear, that we actually burn, with him. So when we checked, we found 18 states costumes. So the Kerala's traditional costume, the Bengal's traditional costume, different. Because in my father's time, people not used to actually do stealing in Gujarat. They used to go in the other state. So if you want to do stealing actually in other state, you need to learn the language. You need to wear their costumes. So my father knew at least 6 languages. My uncle knew 18 languages, including Malayalam, including Kannada, including everything. Now, how these languages used to actually, use? So the form is that, for example, I want to steal something from Upendra. And I know that Upendra is coming from the bank. And I will do a recce that Upendra will stop here.
Yeah.
So now I need to engage Upendra at least for a few seconds. So somebody will come and pick up his actually whatever we want to steal. Now, for that, you need really a really good performance skill. Because I am Gujarati, my father used to live in Gujarat, and I am doing actually I'm stealing in Kerala. So I need to talk with him in Malayalam in a very proficient way, in a proper way, like a lookalike. So for example, he stopped at a pawn shop and I talk with him. So I will distract him by speaking with him with my performance, and some other person will actually pick up his things and I will distract him for the few seconds or few minutes, and then I just go, and then he realizes, okay, he's stolen. So these all things required a lot of performances, proper improvisations. It's not snatching the things from the Upendra. It is taking the things actually from the Upendra with, by the distracting him. And that is required a huge talent. So my forefathers used to do on the street. Then my father's generation, they used actually into the thieving, and we use that actually into the theater to change the stigma. That is the cycle actually, happening.
So this thieving comes only in between. So your great grandfathers didn't do that.
Sorry, say again?
No, this thieving, it came only in between when your father's time, or your great grandfathers also did that.
19th centuries, during 1800s, I think my forefathers, they were, as far as the books, they were street performers.
Okay.
But they become thieves more actually after independence.
So it's independent India made you thieves.
Yeah, yes, you can say that. Because there was, the state keep entire community for years and years, generation into the one place, and there is no livelihood option. Whatever state is giving, you are eating, right? You don't have a livelihood, nothing. Okay, then state get you free and say, oh, you are free, just go outside. Now you go outside, you don't know anything. I mean, you have only one thing, that you are a criminal because you were into the settlement. So with the criminal stigma, nobody will give you livelihood if you want to do a labor work also. So if in the absence of unemployment, what people will do? There is a very good, I mean, I must state and emphasize that the act was repealed in 1952, but the stigma was very strong. Even 1970s, I born in 1973, but there is a 1965 publication which is written by the very known dancer from South India. I think her name is Devi, Rohini Devi. Rohini Devi or Ragini Devi. And she mentioned in her book that she was living into the United States. She came in 1960s actually in Gujarat, and she heard that Chhara's women are really very good actually into the dancing. And she wanted to see the dance and she wanted to write about that. And she mentioned that with the help of some people, she called Chhara woman into the Ahmedabad city and she organized the performance. So the civil society came and they watched Chhara woman's dance. After the dance, she returned that she wanted to give the money to the Chhara woman and the person who brought all the women. And she gave the money. And that man said, no, we don't want money. We didn't come here. But you call us with the love, we perform for you. But we didn't come here, for the money. And she said, so then what do you need? He said, you just give us certificate that we came here because it is already sunset. And she could not understand that if it is sunset, then what is the problem? Why you need certificate? He said, you should write that we came here to dance actually at your place and it is sunset, because once we will show the certificate to the police department, then only they will allow us to enter in our houses. Because after sunset, police came and they lock our doors. So Chandra, even after independence, till 1970s, every morning, after sunrise, police came, after sunset, police came and they lock all the members of the community, my people, into the house and they lock it from the outside. They go to the police station. In the morning, after the sunrise, they come and they open the lock and people can go outside. During the night, if people want to go for the, urine or people have any emergency, they have to keep it. It was going on since 1970s. So independence never reached to not just Chharas, but to these communities. Mahashweta Devi rightly said that जो एक्सपेक्ट किया था इस देश की आजादी से, वो इस देश
Hello? Hello, Dakshin. Are you here? Are you there? I think his net is broken. Dakshin, are you there?
Lost.
Yes. He is there. Yes, he is
The
there.
net is lost. The net is lost.
के लोगों को नहीं मिला है, वो आजादी।
Okay, fine. Okay, Dakshin, unmute. Okay, fine.
Yeah, sorry.
I understand.
I'll tell you the link. It's a very interesting episode actually.
So, anything else to comment, ask from anybody?
I think I feel the initiative of making your youths to become a sensible leader in a society is a very interesting initiative, Dakshin, because when I was listening to you, to upbring a society together ourselves, more than the theater, what can we do? Or the theater, what is the impact of theater to the society? Or more than the theater, what can we do? Means it was the question parallelly coming to me. But when you said through theater, I am sensitizing the youths to become a good leader, and whichever party they go, they have to contribute that. And that is the very interesting, thought and a concrete idea, which you are also, clearly doing. And I will also take it little more strongly, because whenever I work with the youth, I used to think of in what way we are going to take it forward. I mean, whether it has to retain in the fiction and the process space or more than that. But that is a very interesting initiative, Dakshin. A reflection.
Upendra, I think over the year, because I am not I mean, theater educator, but from my experiences, I really found that theater has a huge potential to develop a community leadership. And if you want to bring the change in the society, I think theater is the best tool, but it has to be a sustainable theater. Actually, I think I am against the project-based theater, that you go and you work with the oppressed communities and do the few days, 7 days or 10, 15 days workshop, and you just disappear. No, I think that doesn't work. I think sustainable theater help the community leadership, and community leadership help to bring the justice in the society. From my experience, from my people, like our Buddha theater actor, each and every actor, something happened in the community or in the DNT movement. They are the first people who speak. They are the first people who face. They are the first people who write. They are the first people actually who confront with the society and with the system. So I think and the reason is theater process itself make your actor a more sensible towards the issue, whether they are community people or whether not community people. So whether if you're working with the Dalit people or the tribal community or any oppressed community or even a Brahmin community, because Brahmin people also have a lot of issues. So even if you're working with any community or children or the pensioners or the disabled community, I think sustainable theater will give a good leadership, because it gives a different kind of very strong values actually of the leadership. So that is what I strongly feel, and I learn actually from my own practices. So your observation is absolutely right. Anita, you want to say something?
That was fantastic.
Anything else from anybody? Anita, you got anything to say? I'm seeing you very seriously hearing it.
Yes.
But you understand it from it. She is the youngest of the lot. You can
She's an actress or what?
She can speak in Malayalam also.
Yeah, you can speak in Malayalam also. I can translate. Anita.
Afraid.
You can speak in Malayalam. No problem, Anita. Malayalam parayam.
So meanwhile, let me just share with you what we are doing next. I mean, apart of this podcast, video podcast, we will be, because it's a Corona time, so as physically we are not able to go anywhere. But in all over the country, in next year, we are making 16 episodes on the migrant laborer who walk from their respective cities to their home. So their stories we are documenting online and making the video podcast, making the and if using their expression, bringing it into our art. So we will be making the play, we will be writing the poetry, we will doing the monologue or different kind of arts, using that. So Buddhan theater will get the stories from these all people, and they will be doing the creative activities. We will be documenting it and we'll be showing. So since 2021 December, you will be getting a 16 episodes. So it will be great if you can watch it. This is one. Second, Upendra, about the community leadership, with the snake charmer community, it is a nomadic community, and still they are also branded as criminals.
Yes.
And the nut community, who are traditional acrobats. So we will be implementing Buddhan theatre model into these two communities. Buddhan theatre, snake charmer community and nut community, and bringing these traditional actors into the theatre, and they will actually first they will do a proper research in their community. 10 to 12 people, youth people will be there. So they will become a community researcher. They will be collecting the data from their own community, nut community and snake charmer community. They will understand their problems, and we will facilitate. Buddhan theatre actor will facilitate them, and they will make their own play, and then they will come up actually as a theatre group, and they will perform in front of the policymakers and the society, and they become their own voices of their society. So that will be also doing in the next year. So these are the future plans. Meanwhile, if you have any questions.
If there's anything, Ajay, would you like to say anything?
Yeah, I mean, I think Dakshin, every time I listen to you, you open so many more doors that you are absolutely exhaustive. I mean, the kind of work that you people are doing is phenomenal. And I think I met Dakshin the same time that Chandra met him at Not the Drama seminar in Hegudu. And since then we have, I've been following this entire group. It's fascinating. There's one thing I would like to say is that we spoke about your community being thieving, but one more very important thing is about them being messengers. Since they were artists and they would be migrating and they would be traveling, they were easy people to carry messages from one place to the other. And I think even in Maharashtra, this community was used largely to carry messages from one fort to another fort, since they were constantly moving. And this was something which was very, very negative or very scary kind of a structure for the government or whatever it is. That's one thing. Secondly, just for all of you, I have been to Charanagar, I've stayed. Now, Dakshin's theatre group is fascinating because there are doctors, there are journalists, there are teachers in his group who have literally grown with him, and they are doing their own professions and doing theatre. It's a fascinating study. And I think every aspect of their work, whether it is your language or whether it's the children's theatre or whether it's the way they are doing their performances, their performance space or their bhasha, or Dakshin, the latest work that you people are also doing about the playback theatre at Tejgarh. All these things are, different things that one can study. Another very important aspect, I think, of their work is the film component. I remember seeing their first, I think, when Dakshin was helping in the preparation of the award-winning documentary Final Solution. And now they have come up with their own films, Bulldozer, and now the podcast. And it's fascinating, Dakshin. It's lovely to see. And this word which you use, sustainability, I think this is so very relevant. It's not just for the kind of community work that you all are doing, but sustainable theatre. Not just something which is a fad which comes and one does theatre and it is, it's a very elitist thing and you perform in auditoriums and everything, but it is something that continues. And I think if a change has to happen, not only in the performance or the social issues, but also in an audience. I also concern about the audience, that my sensibility kind of increases so much when I'm seeing this huge amount of work, and that's happen only if I'm hammered again and again and again. So I'm really looking forward, Dakshin, now to your work, the two things that you spoke about. Maharashtra had a very terrible time with migrants. We saw what happened, moving out thousands of kilometers, walking. We have seen it so close. I'm really looking forward to these 16 episodes that you spoke of. Also about you introducing in the Nut community and these two communities where you're going to be, using this tool of theatre. And when I wrote about you, Dakshin, I used a word, and which I again would like to use, that your theatre is a celebration of theatre. And truly, I mean, it's really fascinating. So thank you, Dakshin, for being here with us today. And like I said, you have just started talking. I think we can engage you for many, many, many sessions. And I don't think we'll have enough of the kind of work that you're doing. So on behalf of, Chandra asked me to say thank you or whatever it is. So on behalf of Lok Dharmi, all of us, thank you for engaging us. Thank you for sharing your work. And we look forward to not only 2021, but many, many years of your sustained efforts with theatre and using theatre as a tool for reform, which we very so much need, not only in our country, but across the world. So thank you, Dakshin. Chandra, to you too. Thank you. Thank you for getting such wonderful speakers to us. And please, Dakshin, get well soon. I can see you're looking very tired. You're looking very tired right now. Thank you for holding us for 1.5 hours. But apologies from our side for making you talk. Yeah, I think you need to now go have lunch or take rest.
I need to be a good speaker. But
No, you're a wonderful speaker. Like I said, you don't need to. Your work speaks. You don't have to say. When you see your work, it speaks so much. So do take rest, take care of everyone, and give our regards to your artists and your family and everyone. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
Get well soon, Dakshin. Yeah.
Chandra, you are unmute. Chandra.
I was just saying that we discussed only about one segment of his work. He has done a huge amount of work in films, especially the documentary films. And his last film, The Last Man, is now just doing great, going to festivals. It's a very radical film, and all his films are very, very important. It's also there. So we are not discussing about that right today. And yes, Dakshin, you have to take a rest right now.
I'll send the link. Thank you.
You're very positive in your theatre. You're very positive in your work, and you are now COVID positive.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So next week, everybody, we have Saudi Chakrabarti with a totally different aspect of theatre, about lighting, set, design, all those things. Technical aspects of theatre. It's also important. See you all next Sunday, 11 a.m. So, anything else, Dakshin, you want to complete? And
no, thank you very much, Chandra. I'm really great forum, and after so many days, actually, I spoke about theatre, and I also had a chance actually to go into my own dissertation and looking into the history. Because normally I don't speak. Normally I speak about DNT and Buddhan theatre, but I think it's important to recall actually everything. And very good questions. Very it also realized me also that this work should be sustainable in a different way, and it should reach to the more people, and so more people can also inspire. So thank you very much for everything.
Thank you. Have a nice day, and recover fast.